It seems like just about every week, we see another live service game get shut down. Without a supportive player base to purchase a never-ending onslaught of microtransactions, season passes, and battle passes, the development costs can become unsustainable quickly. But if there weren't already enough avenues for monetization, we've got yet another to throw on the pile: NFTs. So what if I told you that there's a live service early access roguelite that costs $25 and has a $15,000 NFT microtransaction? That already sounds like a disaster. Now what if I told you that I actually enjoyed playing it? Would you believe me? Hello, I'm John. Welcome back to the series where I play and review every crypto and NFT game from the perspective of a gamer. Today, we'll be playing a game called Superior. Superior is a co-op roguelite third-person shooter released into early access in September 2022. The game is developed by Drifter Entertainment and published by Gala Games. In case you haven't seen my Spider Tanks review, Gala Games are a game publisher that insists on putting NFTs and crypto into every game, no matter how much sense it makes. They're also prime examples of crypto grifters, selling $1,000 NFTs for games that have barely even started development. Superior is available on both the Gala Games website and on Steam. Wait a minute, didn't Steam ban all NFT games a couple of years ago? Yes, they did, but there's ways around that ban. As long as the version of your game that's available on Steam does not directly interact with the blockchain, then it's allowed. But since I'm here to review NFT games, I'm going to be playing the Gala Games version, which I'll just refer to as the NFT version from now on. To get access to the game, you must own a Superior Early Access Pass NFT and the cryptocurrency wallet that you have linked to your Gala Games account. After receiving the NFT in my wallet and installing the Gala Games launcher, I can then download Superior. I'm not really sure what the Gala Games launcher does exactly, as it's not something that you can actually launch. It's instead some sort of plugin that's always running in the background. Creepy. Anyway, after relaunching my browser about 6 times to get the install button to work, I was finally able to download the Superior installer. Unfortunately, that was just the first step, and I had to wait another 15 minutes while the game installs and patches with this extremely polished launcher interface. But once that was complete, I was good to go. Straight away, we're treated to a nice intro cinematic explaining the game's story. In the world of Superior, superheroes live amongst the citizens and protect them and help them in their daily lives. But one day, the superheroes got sick and then turned evil. Now it's up to you to use their powers against them to save the world of Superior. I like how simple the story is. It's easy to understand, and it's relatively original. This is the first NFT game to have any sort of coherent story at all, so just by having more than 2 lines of dialogue, they're instantly set ahead of the rest of the competition. After adjusting the game settings and removing the frame rate cap, I headed directly into a multiplayer game, since there appears to be no tutorials. There are currently 3 characters to choose from: Ronin, Nomad, and Murmur. As this is a live service game, of course there's a variety of customizations to choose from for each character as well. This is where the NFTs come into play, but I'll come back to this point later. I chose Ronin, the Bruiser class, and clicked Find Match to get started. If it's not obvious already, this game is already by far the most polished and complete NFT game we've seen yet. This is what I'm talking about when I say that a game in beta should be almost complete. Superior apparently has 85% of the content that it will have at launch. It's great to see that they've placed a high priority on creating a polished UI and a charming art style. After a brief wait, I'm placed into a match with just 1 other player. You can have up to 3 players in a game though, so I'm already assuming that this game has only 1 other player online right now. This isn't surprising. It seems to be common for NFT games to have an average player count between 0 and 4 players at peak hours. Superior is a third-person shooter with roguelite elements. This is by far my favorite genre of game, so I'm going to be very critical. Risk of Rain 2 is one of my most played games of all time, and Superior shares a lot of similarities with it, so I'll be using it as a point of comparison throughout the video. If you're not already familiar with roguelite games, they're a genre of games focused on procedurally generated experiences with permanent death, and a heavy focus on randomness to create a unique play experience every time. Some other examples of roguelite games include Spelunky, Hades, Faster Than Light, and Slay the Spire, among a ton of others. The structure of a roguelite game is typically a stage-based one, with a boss at the end of each stage. Throughout each stage, you're presented with randomly selected upgrades to choose from to enhance your character's abilities. Only with careful choices and good luck will you be strong enough to overcome the often steep difficulty curve as you progress through the stages leading to the final boss. And if you die along the way, you lose everything and must start over at the beginning of the game. Each playthrough is typically referred to as a run. Many roguelite games have a form of meta progression where you can unlock new upgrades that will appear in future runs. Additionally, there's also roguelites where you can permanently upgrade your character stats using a currency gained throughout each run. Therefore, you usually won't be able to beat the final boss of the game right out the gate. You'll need to complete dozens, if not hundreds of runs and unlock all of the upgrades before you can have a run where you actually defeat the final boss. The random nature of this genre makes these games highly replayable, as no two runs are quite the same. Each run of Superior begins in the bar. This bar serves as your hub, and you return here after each stage. Here, you can access a variety of upgrades to use throughout your run. The source of these upgrades is from the juice injectors located in the back of the bar. You begin each run with one juice tank and gain another juice tank after completing each stage. Placing a juice tank into the injector allows for you to choose from 3 randomly selected abilities. There are 2 types of abilities, active abilities or passive abilities. While the pool of potential abilities that can appear here begins limited, you expand this pool of upgrades through playing the game and leveling up. After selecting our starting upgrades, we head to the teleportal in the back of the room to head to the first stage of Superior. Visually, Superior is brimming with style. The cel-shaded art is reminiscent of Borderlands, and the comic book nature of the art style is a perfect fit for the superhero story. Bright colors, snazzy character designs, and a clever use of post-processing and lighting effects allow Superior to both look great and maintain a high frame rate, even with hundreds of enemies on screen. Animations are smooth and stylish, yet creative and unexpected. Different abilities may have your character transforming into an anvil, a motorcycle, or a ball of fire, but it all blends together and fits seamlessly in this crazy world. My favorite animation was the teleporting sequence, where your skin teleports off your body first, leaving behind your skeleton, all while your character kicks back and relaxes. Badass. My biggest and really only complaint regarding the visuals is that sometimes I felt like the post-processing was too strong, especially with objects in the distance being blurred. This led to some visual clarity issues, but after lowering the strength of the post-processing effects, the problem mostly went away. Overall, Superior is a clean and modern-looking game with a unique visual style that matches the game setting perfectly. But I can't say the same for the sound design. The audio's got some mixing issues, with certain sounds being much louder than you'd expect them to be. Some guns are so loud that they drown out all other sounds entirely. Enemies either make next to no noise or way too much noise. It's just inconsistent. While your characters are voice acted, it would have been better if they weren't, especially the bartender character. Superior takes a move from the Borderlands playbook of having some of the most corniest, cringiest writing possible. Nobody in this game ever says anything serious. Everything's either a one-liner or a joke, and none of it's funny. At all. Have a listen to some selections for yourself and let me know if you find any of this funny.
Careful not to spill any of that. It's very valuable. Also, it's dangerous. Oh, geez. That is a lot of blood around there. I'm not great with blood. Initiating. Fun fact, the portal and I are cousins. Good news. There's no need to worry about the long-term effects of juice injection, as your imminent death is all but certain. My favorite powers are the ones that make them explode into little bits. I think there's something wrong with me. Whoa, that is a lot of bad guys.
I think it's just annoying. Borderlands made this approach work fine at first, but by the 3rd entry in the series, it got so annoying that the game was best experienced with voices disabled. It's fine to have humor in your game for sure, but the type of writing where characters just spew one-liner after one-liner needs to be left in the 2010s. The game has a soundtrack, but it's nothing noteworthy. There really isn't much music playing throughout the game aside from the occasional low-key beats while you're chilling in the bar between stages. When you activate your character's overdrive ability, a cool generic metal riff plays, but again, it's nothing memorable. Compared to the high quality of the visuals, the audio in Superior leaves a lot to be desired. The gameplay loop of Superior is simple. Choose your upgrades, enter a stage, kill enemies and collect loot, complete the objective, return to the bar, and repeat. There are 3 different destinations that you can choose when starting a run, and each one corresponds to a different difficulty level. Each run comprises 9 stages, with every third stage containing a boss. The runs are split into 3 randomly chosen maps out of a pool of 6 total maps. So, for example, you'll do 3 stages on the power station map, 3 stages on the downtown map, and then 3 stages on the rubble map. In each stage, you're assigned one of 4 different objectives. Or at least I only ever saw 4 objectives in the 4 hours that I played the game. Find and destroy a generator, go to a place and defeat a certain number of enemies, find a superhero corpse and defend it while juice is drained, or defeat a boss. That's it. The lack of objective variety combined with the limited number of environments leads to the game getting quite repetitive pretty quickly. Load into a stage, pick up the juice, run back to the teleportal, it never changes. The boss fight stages would have been a great opportunity to spice things up, but unfortunately, they're probably the worst part of the game. There's only a total of 6 unique boss encounters, and unfortunately, none of them are really that engaging. The fights ultimately boil down to dodge lasers and shoot weak points. Backbone is extremely easy and almost impossible to lose to, but Wind Up just teleports randomly around and phases in and out of existence, all while spreading bombs everywhere. If you end up having to fight him on a cramped map, good luck, as the bombs take an extremely long time to despawn, so you'll run out of room to maneuver and just die due to having nowhere to dodge. This leads me to my next complaint with the game. The enemy AI is atrocious. Enemies will often just fail to acknowledge you at all, to the point where you can walk up to them and give them a little smooch. Standing on a box makes the point defense objectives trivial, since melee enemies have no capability to reach you and will instead just stand there staring at you. There's also not a whole lot of enemy variety, so prepare to be mowing down hordes of the exact same model repeated over and over again. Continuing to talk about things I don't like, I despise the looting system. In each stage, as you kill enemies, they have a random chance of dropping either a weapon or an upgrade box. These weapons come in a variety of types and rarities, with the rarest weapons having better damage stats. The upgrade boxes contain 2 upgrades, but you can only choose one before the box disappears. These upgrades that you'll find within the stages are less powerful than the ones that you'll spend juice on in the bar. Instead of giving you something like a new ability, they'll just give you a percentage increase to your damage or a flat increase to your max health, for example. The worst part though is this. To loot an item, you have to look at it and then hold the interact button for about 1 second. This completely kills your momentum, as you have to come to a complete stop to grab an item, which will often lead to you just taking damage you otherwise would have avoided. Just having you tap the interact key would suffice here, and would make the experience of running, shooting, and looting much more enjoyable. There are a few different types of weapons that can drop, from shotguns to assault rifles to snipers, so you're given a decent bit of freedom to pick the playstyle that you enjoy best. However, the weapon drops are pretty infrequent, and even worse, they all have their own unique damage stats. So if you're using a sniper rifle, for example, but a legendary shotgun drops on one of the later stages, you'd be foolish not to just switch to using the shotgun. Otherwise, you'd be missing out on a massive damage increase, which you're going to need on the game's later stages. Despite this, I definitely had fun on my first run of Superior, especially since the person that I was playing with was very high level. We didn't make it past the second map though, since I died. While your teammates can revive you, they can only do so a limited amount of times before you just die for good. If any teammate fails to be revived, it ends the run for everyone. I don't like this at all. I wish they could continue without me, or maybe just let me spectate until a later stage where they can buy me back or something. After this first run came to a conclusion, I had leveled up a few times and unlocked some new abilities for my character. Superior has a meta progression skill tree system, where your characters level up and gain skill points. These skill points can be spent to gain a variety of permanent upgrades, such as having a self-revive, having enhanced shielding abilities, or getting increased damage. The game is balanced around the presence of this skill tree, so in your first few runs, you'll feel exceedingly weak and struggle to defeat the second boss. But the more runs that you complete and the more you level up, the more powerful you become. I think that this is a great idea, and it gives you a reason to continue playing the game even after you've completed a run, as you can keep grinding to reach the max level and unlock all of the skills. Now that I've spent my first upgrade points, I head back to queue up for another run of Superior. After about a 2-minute wait, I'm paired up with the exact same person that I had just played with. I guess we really are the only 2 people online. Our second run went a lot better thanks to the new abilities that I unlocked. One of them allowed me to turn into an anvil and bounce around, which was fun. These upgrades come in a few different types that encourage different playstyles. You can freely mix and match amongst the different types to create a build of your choice in each run. Fire enhances your weapons, setting enemies ablaze and causing them to explode. Ice freezes and shatters enemies, leaving behind trails of frost that allow you to slip and slide. And Xeno abilities allow you to transform into a motorcycle or an anvil, and summons little aliens that hover above your shoulder to help in battle. I think that there's other types of abilities as well, but those are the only ones that I had unlocked while playing the game. I enjoyed using the Xeno abilities the most, and I felt like the fire abilities were a lot weaker than the other types. As you progress through the stages of each run, you earn credits, which you can spend in the bar to gain new abilities or restore health and armor. There's also a vending machine, which you can use to get up to 3 different enhancements that last for a limited amount of stages. Overall, your options for customization and build diversity allow for each run to feel unique, which is great. But as I said, it definitely felt like some abilities were a lot stronger than others, which led me to end up choosing the Xeno upgrades every single time that they had appeared in the juice injector. Alright, back to the game. After reaching the second boss, Wind-Up, I had my first of many frustrating experiences with Superior. The Wind-Up boss attacks by throwing landmines around the arena that deal massive damage when you get near them. But things get even more hectic than that, since Wind-Up summons smaller enemies to assist him during the battle. He also seems to be able to teleport completely at random with no warning, causing you to lose track of him constantly. The close nature of the game's over-the-shoulder camera makes it difficult to see where you're walking, and I ended up walking straight into a mine that had spawned in behind me. The arena continued to fill with more and more enemies to the point where neither of us could move. Eventually, I was completely overwhelmed, and with nowhere to move, I died to something that I couldn't have possibly avoided. Here, watch this replay. Can you tell how I died? My health didn't even go to 0. This is a common occurrence in Superior. Rarely did I feel like a death was deserved. Instead, it was almost always at the hands of something that I could neither see nor dodge. Compare this to Risk of Rain 2, where even in the most frenzied battles, the wide field of view and distant camera allows you to get a clear view of your surroundings. This, along with the clearly telegraphed enemy attacks, allows for you to survive with just a sliver of health, all thanks to your skill and dodging. But in Superior, you'll constantly get blown up by something that spawned in behind you that you never could have seen coming. Here's a few more examples of my deaths while playing Superior. Even when watching the footage in slow motion, it's hard to tell what exactly killed me. Let's do a frame-by-frame breakdown of my death against the final boss of the game's easy mode, Brute Force. Alright, I'm completely healthy. The boss fires a missile at me, so I dodge and go forward. The missiles are homing missiles though, and they make a sharp 180-degree turn and end up hitting me from off-screen for over 3/4 of my entire health, only appearing on screen for a few frames. Again, if the camera was a bit more zoomed out, I may have been able to predict this, but still, this is annoying. Anyway, continuing forward, he puts up his shield and I dash in front of him to prepare to attack when he puts his shield down, and again with the missiles, which instantly kill me. So, was this avoidable? Maybe if I had known that I needed to stay very far away from the boss at all times. But still, there's almost no time to react unless you knew ahead of time that this was going to happen. And since the room is completely filled with a ton of other enemies, it's hard to focus on everything all at once. Let's look at a similar scenario in Risk of Rain 2. First of all, no homing missile. Second, every enemy attack is clearly telegraphed. Even the melee enemies have a clear, bright red swipe animation showing their range. In the end, maybe it's my fault for trying to play the game like Risk of Rain, but it definitely feels like some of my deaths were unjustified. Regardless, back to my experience playing the game co-op. After 3 runs with the only other person online, they logged off, and I was never able to find another multiplayer game. Checking on Steam charts, it looks like this game is pretty much dead. With an all-time peak of 20 players, I don't think this game ever really had a healthy player base. This is pretty alarming, considering that the game's less than 6 months old. While we're here, let's check out a few of the reviews on Steam. The general consensus seems to be that this is a decent game, but it's ruined by the developer's choice to include NFTs. Speaking of NFTs, what role exactly do they serve in Superior? Let's head back to our old friends at the Gala Games website to check out the NFT store for Superior. Of course, they have the Superior game license, which is in the form of an NFT. Let's talk about this one first. This is just a worse way to own games in every single way when compared to a traditional digital download on something like Steam. Since NFT transactions are irreversible, if you get hacked, someone can just steal all of your games and there's nothing that you can do about it. Compare this to Steam, all you need to do when you're hacked is reach out to support and they'll be able to restore your access.
The NFT means that you own the game forever. Even if the server is shut down, you can still play it with your NFT in your wallet.
That's simply not true, and if anyone tries to convince you otherwise, they're lying to you. Superior is an online-only game. You can't even play the game without an internet connection, so how exactly would this work if they shut the game service down? Gala Games even says in their terms of service that you only own the underlying NFT, not anything else. What's the underlying NFT look like for Superior? Well, it's just a few lines of text. There's no download or files for the game or anything stored in the NFT. It's nothing more than a receipt on a blockchain. Sorry to burst your bubble, NFT believers, but this is not the amazing use case that you hoped for. Anyway, what about the other NFTs? It looks like there's a variety of prime versions of the game's 3 characters available for sale. Let's check them out. NFT characters get a bonus skill to their skill tree, a higher level cap, experience point multipliers, and a bigger earn bonus than lower rarity versions of the same character. This is the cheapest NFT for the game, and it costs $275? How much do the most expensive ones cost? $15,000? In a game that already has an asking price of $25, you're selling a $15,000 macro transaction? Oh, and the earning bonus too? The game has play to earn aspects too? How does that even make any sense? Locking any content besides cosmetics behind a paywall in a game that's not free to play is a bad decision, but charging over $300 to unlock some of this content is even more ridiculous. And advertising that the NFTs unlock earning bonuses is just dishonest. There's no earning features in this game. There's never been any official announcements on what the earnings will look like or how they work. I doubt that this will ever be a thing. You want to know a funny story? In Spider Tanks, the initially high play-to-earn rewards were actually just coming directly from Gala's pocketbook, since it's just a Ponzi scheme anyway. But since there weren't more people entering the Ponzi scheme to keep it alive, they were just throwing their own money into what they called a buffer pool to give players the illusion of earnings. But since giving people free money is obviously not a sustainable business model, they stopped doing this. Now, the earnings in Spider Tanks are so abysmal that it's mathematically impossible to ever make your money back unless you're playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Gala Games, you never fail to grift. In my opinion, the only reason that the developers added NFTs to Superior is because their publisher is Gala Games. I can't imagine that the people working at Drifter are actual fans of NFTs, but maybe I'm wrong. They've developed a few other games before Superior, primarily Oculus VR exclusives, but nothing with NFTs. They don't look half bad, so why did they decide to go with Gala Games as their publisher for Superior? I can only assume that the money must have been too good to pass up. But in making this decision, they've effectively killed off any chance of the game succeeding. There's next to no online discussion for this game. It's actually really hard to find any information about it at all. Even their launch trailer has less than 15,000 views. Here's a comment on that trailer that made me laugh. This looks like a pretty basic and easy game to develop this day and age, but because they're partnering with Gala, they'll make shitloads of money selling these NFTs. That's a pretty accurate take. For those of you who saw my video on Spider Tanks, another game published by Gala Games, you'll know that they're some of the scummiest, greediest, and dishonest game publishers on the planet. None of their blockchain games use the tech in any sort of interesting or innovative way. It's just an excuse for them to charge hundreds of thousands of dollars for in-game items. But people seem to keep falling for this and giving Gala more and more money in hopes to get rich quick by selling the NFTs to some poor schmuck further down the line. In reality, Gala Games is just taking advantage of everyone in their own community. It's actually insane, and in my opinion, should be illegal. Just a little bit over a month ago, the Gala Games Twitter announced an upcoming partnership with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Mark Wahlberg for their Gala Games blockchain movie project or something. This caused their token to skyrocket almost 60% in price in just a few days. Then, a few days later, they then deleted the tweet because obviously there was no such partnership. Yeah, you heard me right. Gala Games is doing blockchain movies, whatever that means. Here's a snippet from some article about it. Imagine going to a movie and there is a QR code on your ticket to redeem a digital item. Imagine again that you're watching a film on Netflix and a QR code shows up there as well. These are just some of the use cases. Integration with our games and our music is another very exciting prospect. Would you like to add Hogwarts to your Voxverse land? Oh my god, there's Gala music too? If this is something that you're excited for, then you're among the dumbest people of all time. The best use case that they can come up with for the blockchain is to have a QR code to redeem digital items. Keep searching, boys. You'll find that mythical use case for NFTs someday. Anyway, I've played enough Superior to give it a fair review, and I could complain about Gala games all day, so I think it's time that we head over to see how Superior ranks on the John score scale. Since there's two versions of Superior, one with NFTs and one without, I'm going to give the game two separate scores. Unfortunately, my John score system is designed specifically for crypto games, so I'll have to switch it up a bit for it to make sense in a non-crypto game. Point number 1, ease of access. Accessing the game is not that terrible. I mean, you do have to buy the NFT, which obviously takes a little bit of knowledge. Plus, you'll incur a decent amount of gas fees in transferring your Ethereum from the exchange to your wallet and then to Gala. So your $25 game might end up costing you $40 after all the fees. Sounds like the future of finance, but what do I know? I don't understand. Once you have the NFT in your wallet, all you need to do is download the Gala Games plugin and then the Superior launcher. You'll need to go to the Gala Games website every time you want to launch the game, which means you'll also need to give Gala your email address. Gala Games will spam your inbox constantly trying to sell you NFTs, so I'd recommend using a throwaway email if you really want to play any of their 3 available games. For the Steam version of the game, though, obviously they get a perfect score, since this is the gold standard platform for PC video games. So for ease of access, the NFT version gets a 2 out of 5. The Steam version gets a 5 out of 5, though. No complaints there. Point number 2, graphics and audio. Superior has consistent, cool, and stylish visuals. Using crazy abilities and flying all around the map makes you feel very powerful, and the flashy visual effects complement the game's superhero comic-inspired setting. However, the post-processing and other visual effects actually end up interfering with the gameplay. It can be a little difficult to determine what enemies are attacking you, dodging projectiles, and keeping up with the fast-paced nature of the game's boss battles. Additionally, the camera is just way too close to the player for the type of game this is. You'll end up getting killed by things that were completely off-screen far too often, and it's infuriating every time it happens. But in general, the graphics aren't that bad at all, and the problems I have aren't any that can't be fixed before the game fully launches. On the other hand, Superior is lacking in the audio department. Poor audio mixing results in an annoying experience, with things either being way too loud or way too quiet, no in between. Definitely needs some tweaking. The music is entirely forgettable, which is a shame considering roguelites are known for having absolutely killer soundtracks. And lastly, I thought the voice acting was way too cringy and should be removed from the game entirely. I gave Superior's graphics a 2 out of 2.5 and the audio a 1 out of 2.5 for a total score of 3 out of 5 in the graphics and audio department. Point number 3, the gameplay. Superior is a third-person roguelite, similar to Risk of Rain 2. However, it's not the most polished experience. I would argue that it's actually in a worse state than when Risk of Rain 2 launched into early access, which is kinda sad since that game was developed by a team of like 5 people. Enemy AI ranges from brain dead to non-existent, the levels are repetitive and lack variation, and there's only 6 bosses, 3 of which are locked behind the higher difficulties. Also, the enemies don't telegraph their attacks at all, so you'll have tons of stupid deaths to things that you never could have dodged. It feels cheap and unfair, especially for a genre that's all about using pure skill to prevail, even with bad RNG. Since a lot of the game's content is locked behind the higher difficulties, the game is slow to start. Your first 4 to 6 hours playing Superior will be spent on the same 3 maps, doing the same 4 objectives, and fighting the same 3 bosses until you have enough skill points to be able to attempt the higher difficulties. Despite this, the upgrades are fun to use, although they're not very well balanced. In my experience, the Xeno upgrades were always the best choices. I feel like this kills build diversity, which is a core feature in roguelites. Not only are you going to be playing the exact same maps over and over again, but you'll also be using the same exact build every time as well. Not that fun. The game's difficulty is balanced around the co-op mode, but there's nobody else playing the game. So unless you have a friend with the game and you plan ahead of time to play together, you're gonna struggle. And of course, the NFTs are just ridiculous. This is a roguelite game where you can spend $300 to have access to more skill points than players who didn't spend $300. How are you going to balance the game around that? It's a recipe for disaster. Microtransactions that give you more skill points and faster leveling up don't belong in this genre of games, and $300 macro transactions don't even belong on this planet. And worst of all, there's no way to segregate NFT players from non-NFT players. Whether you bought the Steam version or not, you'll still be matched with players who have purchased the NFT upgrades. So if anyone actually played this game, imagine you're queuing up for a match and you get with a partner that has a $1,700 NFT character and they have 60 skill points, while you're stuck with the measly 30 or whatever the maximum is for poor people. Does that sound fun to anyone who legitimately plays video games? No, but it sure sounds fun to the greedy executives that greenlit this idea. Yeah, I know I just spent the last 4 minutes completely tearing the game apart, but I did have fun playing it. But not enough fun to keep me coming back. Superior is a staggeringly mediocre game in an already saturated genre. There's very little that sets the game apart from others in the roguelite genre, and the issues and unfinished nature of the game make it an even tougher sell. I gave Superior's gameplay a 2.75 out of 5. Point number 4, the use of crypto, NFT, and blockchain technology. This game does not need NFTs. Nobody ever asked for NFTs in a roguelite. Nobody ever wanted NFTs in a roguelite, and nobody will ever play a roguelite with NFTs. It's just an excuse for Gala Games to charge idiots thousands of dollars for limited supply characters that they hope they'll be able to resell when the game gets popular. Newsflash for you, buddy. The game's never getting popular, and the NFTs are nowhere near close to selling out after over a year of sales. The NFTs sort of make the game pay to win since you level up faster and have access to different abilities. The developers say that the NFT abilities aren't significantly stronger than the abilities everyone else has, but this is a roguelike game. I think having any sort of microtransaction skills is a horrible decision. I really wish that the developers of this game did not decide to go with Gala Games. Gamers hate NFTs, and that's just a fact. Anyway, the NFT version of Superior gets a 0 out of 5. They use the blockchain for absolutely nothing besides being an excuse to charge thousands of dollars for something that they shouldn't even be selling in the first place. I'm not going to score the Steam version on this category, although maybe I should since you can still play with the NFT players. I don't know. Maybe one day Drifter will come to their senses and break up with Gala and get rid of the NFT version entirely. Point number 5. Will this project succeed? Superior was dead on arrival. There was no hype for this game outside of the cult of Gala, and even they don't seem the slightest bit interested in playing the game, since there's never anyone online. There is almost no organic online discussion surrounding this game. Just the usual slew of bots and crypto bro YouTubers blindly hailing this as the best game of all time. Even the game's official Discord server is pretty much dead. The price tag of $25 is way too steep for how little content there is in this game. That's the same price as Risk of Rain 2, a better game in every aspect. It has no NFTs, no microtransactions, and the best soundtrack of any game released in the past 5 years. And Superior is saying that they want to raise the price even further than $25 later on? I guess that's the only way they'll ever break even on the development costs, by overcharging. I actually feel bad for the developers behind this game. It's clear that they have a lot of passion for making video games, and were probably just lured into the world of NFTs by promises of crazy money from the crooks at Gala Games. Unfortunately, through this partnership, they've killed any potential of the game seeing mainstream success. I predict that Superior will launch to absolutely no fanfare and have support pulled entirely in less than 2 years. 1 out of 5. My total score for the Steam version of Superior is a 5.8 out of 10, and the NFT version gets a 3.5 out of 10. In conclusion, Superior is a game that has a lot of potential, but the unfortunate association with a scummy publisher and the $300 NFT macrotransactions make me unwilling to give them my financial support. The base game still needs a lot of work to be considered ready for release, and the core gameplay loop, while fun, gets old quickly. With a price tag of $25, I can't justify recommending the game in its current state. But I think there's a lot of great ideas here, and a clearly passionate dev team behind the game. Plus, it's not like the game has a bunch of problems that can never be fixed. It's not like Undead Blocks, which is just entirely broken down to its very core. I'll be interested in seeing how the game improves throughout the early access period, and I'll definitely be checking back in the future to see if they fixed the issues that I had. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you played Superior? What are your thoughts about $300 NFTs in a roguelike game? Do you hate Gala Games as much as I do? Anyway, I've had way too much fun today. It's time to get back to my usual pain and suffering as I continue my search for the worst NFT game ever. Goodbye.